So, I think I've decided I am going to make a video series because I've been noticing for over a decade now that there are some extremely basic things in life, in the world, in the universe, and everything that anyone under the age of 25 that I encounter just has, and especially that I see online talking, complete unawareness concerning. And because they are so completely unaware of these things, they think that things have happened in the past for no good reason, essentially. The top of my mind, the most obvious example of this is racism, right? Like, racism did not just happen in a vacuum. Do people think that people just woke up one day and they were like, you know what? I think I've decided that our race is superior to all other races, even though it's not. And because I think that now, I'm going to go all over the world subjugating, exploiting, and oppressing members of other races, even though my race isn't superior, in order to assert that my race is superior. Like, do you hear, young people, do you hear how fucking retarded that sounds? No, that isn't actually what happened. First of all, as far as I can tell from studying history and in my 45 years, pretty much the norm is for people to inherently think that their own kind, whatever that is superior to everyone else, regardless of whether or not there's any objective reality to that assertion. But there can actually be, and this is something you guys really don't understand, there can actually be objective reality to that assertion. There are such a thing as superior cultures and superior traits when it comes to certain things. And I would argue that just like when you're making a video game character, it's a trade-off. You can have like more dexterity for less intelligence, or more strength for less magic ability, right? If it's a fictional universe, but in the real universe, it would be something else. I think it's like that. I think creating a person and creating a race, thereby being a set of people with traits in common, I believe it's like that you can trade off like increase in strength for decrease in intelligence and things like that. I think that's just kind of how the universe works. And this is actually what I want to talk about. I was just using racism as an example because you young people fucking love that word and you have no idea what it means. First of all, you don't know the difference between bigotry, racism, xenophobia, what's the other one? Prejudice. You guys have that all mixed up in your head and you all call all of it one concept of racism, which is an example of how retarded and dumbed down you've been by the system. But here is the most basic thing that I need to explain to young people, because apparently the school system and your parents have not cared enough about you to teach you this, and life has sheltered you so much that you don't know this. And I mean, maybe they actually want you to be so dumb that you don't realize this, but life is a trade-off. Life is black and white. Life is positive and negative. Life is not a zero-sum game, but life is duality. And you guys, this most basic thing about life that every other generation had worked out by the time they were 11 years old, because they actually got to go out and experience life and they didn't just sit at home on an iPad all day long. Yeah, everybody else worked out how duality works. And when you understand how duality works, you understand so much more about the world. So you don't just look out at this world that you have very little experience of and say, oh, I see injustice everywhere, because you understand that everything's a trade-off. You understand, oh, okay, so like most of the people in the world are dirt poor, but they exist inside of a community, and community is what gives people meaning and happiness in life. So even though they don't have very many material things, they're very happy. Whereas people who exist in Western countries, the epitome of which is the United States, have a lot of material things but almost no social connections anymore. Their communities have been systematically destroyed for decades, and therefore these people are very unhappy. Oh, and by the way, intelligence correlates with unhappiness. So, if you're a person like me, you have moderately high intelligence, you tend to be discontent with life for a number of reasons, not the least of which is it's difficult to connect with people because if most people have the baseline IQ of 100, because that's the definition on a bell curve, another thing people don't understand anymore, and your IQ is 140, you're gonna not find that many people around that are at the same level as you that can relate to you, that can easily connect with you. So, yeah, that's another thing. Intelligence correlates with unhappiness in life. Because if you understand, and I'm not even that smart, like I'm not a 200 IQ. If you understand how the world could be, and then you see how the world is, that makes you angry, especially over time. The longer you're alive, the more angry it makes you. Oh, and the longer you're alive up until a point, the more intelligent you get. Human brains develop until 25, and then basically you continue gaining experience and knowledge until you're about my age, 45, and then your intelligence peaks, and then it starts to go down for the rest of your life. So I'm about as smart as I'm going to be. So I figure it's probably a good time to teach the youngins everything that nobody else bothered to teach them. And you guys desperately need to know this stuff because you're horribly misinformed. You know who's the worst misinformed right now? Young women. Young women have absolutely no clue how the world has worked historically. They only understand this little bubble, which is in the process of popping right now, and they're miserable because it is popping. Because they think what's gone on in the last 10 years with all this reverse discrimination against men especially, and white men in particular, they think all that's normal. They don't understand the principle that, generally speaking, the people who put the most into the system need to be rewarded the most by the system. Otherwise, the system collapses, which is why communism never works. If you support communism, please read a book. Please read the history of communism, and don't tell me it's not real communism. Yes, it was. Communism just doesn't work because there's no incentive structure making the people who are actually competent or capable of working hard want to. The only way you can get them to in communism is to put a gun to their head, and that's only going to work for so long, boys and girls. And I would argue we've kind of been in communism since Obama's second term. It's kind of, I would call it like crypto communism. And that's kind of why everything's coming unglued now, because people like me who have the competence to contribute and improve the system have absolutely no desire to. Because why would we? Why would you want to contribute to a system that hates you? So if you want to know more about that topic, read Atlas Shrugged. It's written by a Jewish woman that grew up in communism, and she wrote basically explaining all these concepts in depth. Well, you're going to want to skip the long-winded speeches because they're almost impossible to read. Okay, so sorry that I'm being insulting, but I'm a reasonably smart person, and you young people have really been dummied down. I'm sorry, it's not your fault. So I'm kind of screening out anyone who's weak. You got to have strong character to listen to me. If you bother to listen to me, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to advance in front of the other people your age rapidly because you're going to understand the world better. Because I am going to teach you everything I've figured out in 45 years. And baby, I've been paying attention. I came to play. I was a really good student back when it was hard to be a good student. And I have self-educated myself my entire life. I am a rabid information addict. I've been on the internet since there was a World Wide Web, basically, or within the first 9 months of it. I've educated myself in all kinds of different directions and paid particular attention to the wisdom of all ages. Things like the Tao Te Ching, the Bible, Confucius, Aristotle, Plato, things of that nature. What's it called? Machiavelli and Lao Tzu. I have really studied the hell out of ancient wisdoms, and I was doing that from a very young age. And now I'm a graybeard, so, well, I'm almost there. You can't tell when my facial hair is this short. When it gets longer, you see the gray. I've pretty much got this planet worked out. There are some things I've still got questions about. Some things are above my pay grade, but the thing that I find the most interesting is, now that I've been alive, I'm going into my 5th decade. I've actually been amazed by, there's this thing that happens when the population increases, history speeds up because there's more people. So more people means more salient human events are taking place. And the more salient human events are taking place, the faster culture's shifting. Therefore, the faster history's happening. So in the period of time I've been alive for the last 45 years, there's been more people on the planet than ever before. I would argue almost half of human history, or probably a good quarter of human history, has actually taken place in the time I was alive. So I've seen absolutely 180-degree shifts in culture in my very short lifespan, which throughout history, there's almost never been times where things shifted this rapidly. To give you an example, when I was growing up in the 1980s, and you can check this, don't take my word for it, you can check this by watching movies and TV shows from the 1980s, women's attitudes and behaviors were completely different from how they are now. Completely different. And there were, of course, reasons for that, right? You can call it culture, you can call it evolutionary, whatever you want to call it. The thing I'm going to pound into your heads, young people, is there is a reason for everything. People don't just wake up in the morning and decide they're going to be a certain way just to be evil, just to be an asshole. Nothing works like that. No matter how evil you think the worst person in the world is, they have motivations. They have reasons for being who they are. You got to understand the reasons why things are the way they are, especially if you want to change them. And you have to understand regression towards the mean. You have to understand if there's been a pattern that's been in place in most cultures throughout most of history, or a belief that's been common throughout most cultures throughout most of history, then I'm not saying that's true, or I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I'm just saying it's going to go back to that soon, because things are breaking down, because the people who brought you high culture and high technology and the easy life everyone's been living, those people are dead. And no one who is alive right now is going to bring that back or fix that, because there's absolutely no incentive structure anymore to do so. The only incentive structure in existence right now is to grift. And that's why we're living in a griftocracy. We're living in a rapidly decaying culture, which is collapsing back in time in terms of like how sophisticated things are. Rapidly, it's collapsing thousands of years in a matter of years. It's rapidly collapsing, which means things are going to get much harder from here on out. And we are going to revert to the norm of history in every conceivable way. If you want to get ahead of that curve, if you want to set it up so that you're living a good life for the rest of your life, first of all, if you did that, you'd be one of the privileged few. But if you want to do that, you need to take advantage of how easy it is right now to study history. And you need to study history, and you need to study all the different wisdoms from all the different cultures over history to get ahead of that curve. And then on top of that, you're going to need good luck. I will point you in the right direction if you are strong enough to deal with my mean words.